Okay, so hello, my name is Eric, and I'm refuting to Ricardo, and his claim is playing video games can have positive effects on the people. And his secondary claims were: first, video games improve cognitive skills, and second, video games improve the psychology of people as well. So my response to his first claim is that and just to give you a preview, cognitive skills is ability to process information, reason, relate, or remember anything along the lines of using your brain or anything like that. And Ricardo was right saying that the cognitive skills does develop when you play video games, and it does improve attention to detail and multitasking and all that. But a study was done by American Psychological Association reports that although video games does not improve the ability to concentrate in short bursts, but it does damage long-term concentration and increase impulsiveness. So the study consisted of over 3,000 children over the course of 3 years over 12 different schools in Singapore. And then the results were that children were impulsively playing and spending more time on video games rather than studying in school or focusing on the material. And the reason why they focused on games only was that because they got used to the stimulus of playing games, like sound effects and video games and all that cool stuff. So they don't really get to, they don't get enough stimulation to concentrate on the school stuff, 2 plus 2, that's kind of boring compared to shooting a gun. So this shows that there's an increase in impulsiveness and undermines the idea that video games improve cognitive skills. And another study was done by Dr. Gregory West at McGill University, and it showed that video games players show more efficient visual attention abilities as well, but they don't use their brain hippocampus, which regulates the emotion and the memories. They only rely on reward system and navigation, the reward system, so they don't use the hippocampus much. And the decreased activity in the hippocampus correlated with Alzheimer's and depression and schizophrenia. And this shows that there's also a negative effects of playing video games as well. And his second claim was that video games improve the psychology of people as well. He didn't really go over anything about how this was a form of video games improve the psychology of people as well. He just stated that video games were just form of stress management, and then we could just play the game to let the stress out. And so the evidence was inefficient, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm gonna give an example of why it's not a stress management at all. 17-year-old was reported dead playing after 22 days straight of video game. He plays 6 to 7 hours every day and was found collapsed in his room and was reported dead at the hospital. And the cause of death was second-class syndrome thrombosis, which is caused by staying still for a long period of time without moving around to keep the blood flowing. So this shows that it's not really healthy. Video games does not improve the psychology as well, although it can improve it. In this case, it didn't. He doesn't even have psychology right now, so. And then another example was an 18-year-old in Taiwan, also died playing Diablo for 40 hours straight. This is from a news called Huffington Post on 2012, July 18th. And this also shows that it's not really strictly beneficial to the psychology. And another big major factor of playing video games that could result in negative psychology is that a lot of video games today have a lot of violence, which is over 85% video games have violent content. And people who play video games show that when exposed to real violence, they had lower heart rate and less response from the violence. And this shows that video games desensitize violence, and this is a problem since people playing violent video games won't see violence as serious as it is. And from my personal experience, I play League of Legends sometimes, and it's really stressful. It's not a real good source of stress management, in my opinion. And yeah, that's it. I would like to conclude my presentation.
All right, the structure is laid out pretty clearly at the beginning. You give us a definition of cognitive terms, which is probably not harmful. I'm not sure how necessary it was. On the first point, you've got a good explanation of what the advocate's point was. You kind of concede that it does have some of the benefits that are listed there, but your argument ultimately is that there's a counterbalancing effect when it comes to these sorts of things that is problematic. So as a counterclaim, I thought you developed that pretty well. It may be possible that both claims are true, in which case your argument is really about the long-term impact rather than denying the actual claim that the advocate's presenting, and it's a way to diminish whatever advantages there are that the advocate says exist. I like the fact that the one piece of research that you mentioned talks about trade-offs that you get, and I think that that's important, that for every supposed advantage you get, there's going to be some sacrifice being made. There's also some information that talked about how people get kind of caught up in the stimulus, and that becomes the thing that drives their attention, and it limits their ability to work effectively and cognitively, for instance, in other contexts like learning in school. So I think that that applies much more directly to the advocate's argument on that point. Before you get to the second point, there's a quote that talks about some potential links to a variety of diseases. It was not very clear how that came up, and it felt like you kind of rushed over that information. So if you're going to make that an argument and you want it to be significant, I think you need to highlight it a little bit more. On the second point, basically on the issue of stress management, I kind of like the end example that you have. So when I play the game, it's hardly stress relieving, it's really stressful. I like the way that you kind of present that. You challenge his lack of evidence on that point, and I thought that was the first time that you actually went after any of the evidence that the advocate presented. And then your kind of conclusion was, well, there's no psychological benefit if you're dead, and you've got a couple of examples of people who have in fact died as a consequence of that. And that was okay. I don't know how typical that is. I don't know how I weigh it against what the advocate is saying the advantages are, but I thought you did a good job presenting that argument. You could just probably take it a little bit further. And then, like I said, I kind of like the exit point you had. All right, thank you. Jeremy.